Lemonada.
Welcome to Worth It from the Minnesota Star Tribune. I'm Nicole Norfleet. Here with me today, filling in for Aaron Brown, is reporter Zoe Jackson. Hey, Zoe.
Hi, Nicole.
Each week on the show, we share the happenings around Minnesota that we think are worth your time, your attention, and your money. Today on the show, Zoe went on a 12-mile walk through Minneapolis and saw a city like never before.
And my feet still hurt.
I bet. Gay bars have always been where the community goes to have fun and feel safe. What happens when they disappear? Plus, the National Women's Rugby Championship is happening right here in Minnesota. And we'll have a few ideas for how to celebrate Pride this weekend. I don't know about you. It's like Pride is always comes and sneaks up on me.
Same.
There's like Pride pressure, pressure to do something on Pride, especially when you have people in from out of town.
Yes, my friend is getting here like tomorrow, and I think she has very high expectations because she's a baby gay. That like I'm going to show her like an amazing time.
Oh,
but
my
I'm
gosh.
like,
You're like her gay fairy godmother.
Yes. But I'm like, no, this actually like almost passed me by. If you weren't here, I don't know that I would be doing anything.
I like to say I'm a lazy lesbian, which is, there was a time when I used to go to Pride and I would be like people were telling me about, I'm just going to stay home this weekend. Oh, I'm going to go do this, that. I'm like, I'm never going to be that person. Like, I'm always going to be out and partying and like being able to like commune with the community, I guess you'd say. And I'm definitely turned into that. I think motherhood, a mortgage, and just a aversion for crowds of people, maybe.
Yes.
Anyway, let's get into it. I love a little walk around my East Side neighborhood. It's a great way to experience the city, especially architecture and old homes. But Zoe took it to a whole new level. Zoe, tell people about how you walked Minneapolis from the tippity top to the tippity bottom the other week.
So I love a good TikTok challenge, and I saw this creator doing this, walking from the top to the bottom of Minneapolis, and it's kind of been going viral locally. So I was like, in the name of journalism, we should test this out. So Casey Darnell, who's a audience producer here and one of my good friends, we decided to do it on like a random Wednesday where it was raining.
Okay.
And we walked 12 miles.
A world challenge.
Saw, a lot of different parts of the city. And it was pretty fun, despite the rain.
And so where did this walking challenge actually come from?
So I don't know if you're familiar with Broad City.
Love Broad City, yes.
Yes. So they did an episode like where that was the gist. It was like, we're going to walk from the tippity top to the tippity bottom of Manhattan. And I remember like loving that episode, but then during COVID, a lot of people started doing that in New York for something to do, nothing else to do, and it really caught on there. And then this creator also is a fan of the show. Her name is Cleo, and she was like, I quit my job, so I figured, why don't I do one
Go for a walk, yeah.
Yes, and she replicated it here, starting in North Minneapolis, like Victory Memorial area, and then ending like 50th in France.
Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you prepare for something like that. I was thinking like you had like you were carrying snacks on you. You had a couple bottles of like your substance.
Yes.
How did you prepare for this?
I was laughing because between Casey and I, we had one umbrella, one rain jacket. So
you guys had a Rochambeau for who got with. Okay.
Basically. And then I did interview Cleo, who created the little challenge before. So she was like, hey, I kind of regret not having like anything to eat because like after the...
She had olives, I think.
Yes. Isn't that so weird? Like, she's like, all I brought was like a pack of olives. And then people were commenting like, if all I had to eat was like a coffee and olives, like
I would have threw
looking
up.
for a bathroom everywhere, which is another interesting, component of this. But yeah, so I made sure we had like protein bars and like water and a speaker for some music.
Oh, so you had like a boombox here.
Well,
like
just
a little
like a portable speaker.
Little portable speaker.
Yeah.
Okay. For some inspiration.
A hat, sunglasses. Shoes were like, I'm not a runner, so I don't really have like good running shoes or anything. So that was my like fatal flaw in that like the last 2 miles, I was like, I'm gonna jump in the lake. Like,
feet first.
yeah, yes, feet first with like rocks tied to the bottom.
Oh, no.
Like I was like, if this like goes on for like another 20 minutes, like I'm gonna start crying.
Oh no.
But like
You're like a survivor. You're a survivor.
Yeah, yes. Tell me about your longest walk. Did you secretly do the Camino?
I haven't walked from the tippy top to the tippity bottom, but there are definitely a lot of times that I've gotten lost, and I actually like getting lost. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of times, especially in St. Paul, I love looking at old houses.
Same.
And so in the Summit area especially, I actually kind of give myself a little bit of a cushion to get lost. Though I will say I need to get out of my car more to do like what you did. But I'm doing more of that now that I have my son and we're like doing a stroller. We also put him in this little thing that it's like a bike, but you push it. So it's kind of like he thinks that he's biking, but really I'm pushing him. And it's like the perfect height for me to like rest on. So I have like some support. So just last weekend, for instance, before it got too hot in the morning, we did a whole walk around Lake Phelan.
Nice.
And I've done that a bunch of times, but I've kind of forgotten stuff about it. And you kind of see new things each time you walk.
Totally.
And then I happened on that they're giving free kayak rentals almost every weekend this summer, which I would not have known if I hadn't just started walking, and I had been wanting to paddle more. So
nice.
Anyway, I just feel like walking is just a great way to explore, get lost.
You're like, I'm going there after this.
Yeah. There's like a splash pad. It was great. But I'm sure there were some pretty cool places. What were some of your favorite spots that you saw?
I mean, in terms of like not nature, it was nice to go to like the Get Down, which I really like.
Oh, yeah. And that's a coffee shop in North Minneapolis. You can get coffee and I think like probably treats, right? Like
yes, I think I got like an apple fritter
and your haircut too, right next to it.
Yeah, you can get a lineup. You can get an apple fritter. You can get an espresso tonic. You know, use the bathroom before you walk 12 miles.
That's good.
Very chill. That was cute. And then that whole area has like a lot of really cute like houses if you're into like home gazing.
I am.
And such.
You are speaking my language. Yes, I am. Okay.
So there's that. We walked through some of Eloise Butler, which was cool. We walked by the like golf course at Theodore Wirth, which may technically be in Golden Valley. I don't know. Okay, like when you're in there, you don't know like what city you're in.
How were you staying on track?
We sort of plotted this out on just like Google Maps, where we like knew we were going to go to the Get Down. We knew we were going to get like lunch in Linden Hills. So there's that, and then we passed my favorite beach, which is Cedar Lake South Beach.
Okay, did you guys take a relaxing?
Yeah, we did. They also have a bathroom that's indoors, which is
I like how you're planning this out by bathrooms, which I hadn't even thought of, but that makes sense.
Yes. Minneapolis, there's a lot of discourse about whether there's enough public restrooms.
Or trash cans. Or trash cans, right?
Yes.
I swear I always have trash. I can never throw it away. Okay. Okay. And so did this help you see the city differently?
I don't know if it made me see the city like differently, but like it made me grateful for like
a car? No. Grateful for what? Sorry.
For just like all these green spaces and like how accessible they are. And it made me be like, wow, I should really walk like 3 miles every day, probably.
So what's your verdict with this? Should we do this? I'm thinking this is maybe a fun like date kind of thing. I mean, you could really get to know somebody from doing. I don't know. Did you guys even talk when you were doing this?
We did. Casey and I are really good friends, and I was kind of like, dang, what are we going to talk about for 5 hours when like we see each other every day at work pretty much, right? We yap. So go with someone who likes to talk or bring music. We were saying it could be good to like catch up with a friend you haven't seen in a while. I like the idea of it being a date, but it's like, you know, it could put you through this will be the date that you decide whether you guys should keep dating, right? Yes, literally. Because the last like mile and a half I was trudging and I was like, I'm gonna start crying.
But Casey pulled you through?
Casey pulled me through. My girlfriend may have dropped me off a Gatorade.
Okay, I love that.
At the last, mile.
I love
and
that.
I was like, thanks, babe.
I love that support.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for doing this. Stay in the host seat because I know your legs hurt, so you probably just want to stay seated. Up next, what happens when a historically gay neighborhood loses its only gay bar?
If you like Worth It, you should know it's just a tiny taste of all that the Minnesota Star Tribune has to offer. We've got an all-access pass to everything Minnesota, from outdoor adventures to the hottest food spots you've never heard of. From puzzles and games to the best concerts and happenings around the state. It's all here all the time. So subscribe to the Minnesota Star Tribune. It's a great deal. Go to startribune.com/worthit to subscribe. That's worth it to subscribe, all one word. This is an ad by BetterHelp. June is Men's Mental Health Month, and my guy, it's time to talk. Men today face immense pressure to perform, to provide, to keep everything together. So it's no wonder that 6 million men in the U.S. suffer from depression every year. Men are also less likely to seek therapy than women, which means depression among men often goes underdiagnosed. If you're a man and you're feeling the weight of the world, the strongest thing you can do is ask for help. Talk to someone, anyone, a therapist, a friend, a loved one, because real strength comes from being honest about what you're carrying and doing something about it. Therapy can help you find your way, and BetterHelp makes it easy to start. Take a short online quiz and connect with a qualified therapist from the privacy of home. Every man deserves better. Visit BetterHelp.com today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com.
The Twin Cities Pride Festival is this weekend, which means Loring Park will be packed with people celebrating. The neighborhood has historically been a hub for LGBTQ plus people, but when the much-loved 19 bar shut down due to a fire, it left a huge hole in the community. Here to tell the story about the 19 bar's triumphant return is reporter Victor Stepanescu. Welcome, Victor.
Thanks for having me on.
So, Victor, you typically cover medical technology for the Star Tribune. What got you interested in this story?
Yeah, for sure. No, very far from the world of pulse oximeters and heart valves and things like that.
Yeah.
I've always been really interested in the way LGBTQ neighborhoods kind of serve their communities. When I was in college, I wrote my senior thesis about them and how people sort of found them to be safe places, in hard times. And moving to Minneapolis, it's a bar that I heard a lot about, and in a neighborhood that I also heard a lot about. Loring Park has traditionally been kind of interpreted as the so-called gayborhood of Minneapolis. And part of that reason is because of this bar in which people sort of describe as like the gay living room of Minneapolis. So for me, there's always been an interest. I think the neighborhoods we live in affect the way we kind of see the worlds we live in.
Well, I was going to ask, gayborhoods, I feel like they're disappearing a lot in different cities. Is that something that you found when you were doing your thesis?
Yeah, for sure. And it is happening. These are neighborhoods in which people have traditionally been known in the LGBTQ community to live, work, and play in. And it is true, since even kind of the later half of the 20th century, these neighborhoods have become harder to find. There's multiple factors people sort of cite as the reason behind that. Some people say the rise of the internet makes it much easier to meet people who were similar to without actually going to physical places.
Face-to-face, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's other factors too. Some say the world has become, more inclusive within the last 20 or so years.
So there's not as much of a need for these
completely
places.
But then again, in the last few years, especially kind of after 2021 or so, the trend has once again reversed. So that makes some wonder if these kind of physical places as bars, and these, literal neighborhoods are going to be more necessary than ever before.
What did people tell you was so special about the 19 bar?
The 19 bar is unlike almost any other, LGBTQ bar in the country. It feels like a living room, and that's what people say. You walk in, you usually know the people kind of work in the bar. You know the regulars sitting around it. There's fun games to play. There's pool that's pretty cheap. There are dartboards that are, easy to sort of dive into. There's a patio. People love hanging out when it's nice outside, which isn't always in Minneapolis, but it is just not, the type of bar in which you need to really prepare yourself for. You can kind of go there after a day of work or hang out there on a weekend night. A lot of times other LGBTQ bars are more of kind of dance clubs these days, especially in Minneapolis. And the 19 bar stands out as like a place you don't need to dress up for.
Zoe, you've been to 19 before. Is that kind of the vibe you got?
I would agree. Very chill. I feel like sometimes when you're going out with your gay friends, you're like, oh my God, I have to prepare for like 2 days. I don't have an outfit. But this is like, no, you don't have to plan. You can just end up there. I love ending up there at the end of a night.
Entirely. And people, also talked a lot about how it's kind of a working class bar. A lot of times, this world has become more expensive than ever before. And this is the one bar in which, one can buy a pitcher of beer for like $13. And although I don't think people go there for the cheap beer necessarily, it's, an added benefit too.
So tell us about what happened in 19 bar.
Yeah, so it's a long story, and I think we could even start, in the 1950s when it kind of came into this world very early on. Shockingly for me as kind of a young person, it's hard to kind of imagine what it would have been like to run a gay bar in the 1950s.
Yeah.
And, it existed kind of in those early years when, a discrimination against LGBTQ people as a whole, and especially gays and lesbians too, was the norm. It kind of stood through, the AIDS crisis, serving as a kind of community center. It held wakes for people who died when funeral homes sort of kind of turned them away from kind of their facilities. And it also hosted these like beautiful potlucks too for kind of, young LGBTQ people who were kind of to come home during the holidays during that horrific time. The 19 bar has done well, it sounded like, for kind of the last few decades. But then there was a fire, a very unique fire, surprising one. I know you reported on it. Basically, a garbage truck backed into a light pole, and then it fell on top of like part of the like 19 bar complex.
I saw the video. They actually had the video of that.
Yeah, and it led to like a gas line catching on fire and spreading throughout the building, and it was just a big mess. And the inside was burnt down, and it took nearly a year for them to rebuild it. And it was
nobody
a
was
difficult
injured,
process.
right?
No one was injured. There was one person who was in the building at the time, but they were able to kind of get out before being harmed.
The community came together after the fire. Like, what kind of help did the bar get?
Yeah, so it sounded like other bars in town, like the Saloon, which is kind of well known here locally too.
Where I met my wife.
Oh, awesome. Amazing. So they hosted a fundraiser for the staff so they can, remain paid in that nearly whole year when, their sort of day job was no more. And then it reopened in late February of this year.
Yeah, like it was like the middle of a weekday. It was like a Thursday. Were you there too?
No, but I heard it was 3 p.m. on a Thursday.
Yes, it was 3 o'clock. And I was like, oh, there's no way. Because like when I got there early to like talk to like the manager and stuff. And it was like no one was in there at all. And it was only like, when I say early, as we know, it's hard for me to be on time. So like early is like 2:30. Like it's not that much earlier. So I'm like, there's nobody here. Like whatever. Like that's so interesting. Like 3 o'clock's weird. By the time 3:05 hit, line is like around the block and people were just waiting to come in, and they were laughing like, these gays can't be on time, like it's 3:05, we're supposed to have the doors open. And I was like,
punctual.
Well, yes,
punctual.
But it was so beautiful, and like people were there who like met their partner there like 30 years ago. And like it was so cute, and they kept the same staff because all the fundraisers were able to keep everybody like paid like somewhat throughout the last 11 months.
Now, is there anything new there that you can point to?
Oh, there's a women's bathroom.
Yeah.
That was huge.
So.
Yes.
Brand new. There are heaters outside on the patio.
Like I said, it was for the boys, in my opinion. But
I mean, I think it was. That's why they were like, look, we have this. We have people, the ladies will be happy. We have a women's bathroom now. That's what they
for
said.
sure. What I wrote a lot about is that it seems to have changed from just being like for the boys.
Okay.
Like I went there on what was kind of this trans community night where, a lot of trans women especially were kind of coalescing and kind of just having fun together. So I think there's not that many bars left in town. And I know especially kind of for like women identifying people, the bars that tried to sort of establish themselves, thinking about like the Pie Bar in like the 2000s, that was really popular for like a very short period of time before it had to close. Those bars are no more. So, that means some of the other bars in town might be kind of rethinking how they kind of work with other people.
Be more inclusive.
Yeah, completely.
When I first moved to the Twin Cities, I actually lived in Loring Park.
Cool.
And this was before I kind of identified, as I was still kind of figuring myself out. And I came out as a baby gay there. And it was wonderful just having a built community there and not having to worry about holding hands or figuring myself out. At least I felt very supported there. And I think it's actually really interesting that the 19 bar, now that when I go to Loring Park, it's so built up, right? Like all the skyscrapers and stuff like that.
Completely.
I think it's still cool that we're able to have like a one level, like not glitzy place to hang out still.
Its former owner told me he gets like 4 letters a year or something from developers looking to kind of raise it. So I think that, says a lot about their decision to rebuild and kind of his commitment to the community.
Great. Well, thanks for helping us learn more about the 19 Bar and LGBTQ legacy in Loring Park, Victor. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Thank you so much.
Women's rugby is one of those rising stars in the world of women's sports that's getting fans excited. Our very own TC Gemini is one of 6 teams in the Women's Elite Rugby League. Here to tell us about their first season is sports intern Shelby Swanson. Hi, Shelby.
Hey, what's up?
First off, what is the Women's Elite Rugby League, and why is that so significant for the sport?
Yes, so the Women's Elite Rugby League, or WER, is the newest pro women's rugby league in the U.S. It was launched in April of last year, 2024. So there's 6 teams. That's the Bay Breakers, Boston Banshees, Chicago Tempest, Denver Onyx, New York Exiles, and then our hometown team,
Exiles.
The TC Gemini. They all have great names.
These are very good names, right?
Yeah. And it's really just been a big step in professionalizing a sport that, if you talk to a lot of players, has been historically under-resourced. Now players aren't entirely fronting their own costs.
Yeah, you mentioned it was founded last year. Like, how did women's rugby get so popular and mainstream?
There have been so many great players just building on years and years of, experience. But the really huge boost came after Team USA's bronze medal win over Australia at the Paris Olympics. That was last summer. It was the first Olympic medal for a U.S. sevens team ever. It was just really fast.
What is that?
What
Yeah,
does that mean?
7s. So you can have 15s and 7s. That just refers to the number of players per side.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Yeah, so that was a really big boost, obviously. A little bit sort of a surprise.
I saw that TikTok because she she just busted out of there and it was just like beast mode, and then she that was pretty badass.
I mean, and so you have that, right? And you have players like Alona Marr have obviously gone viral. I think she has, if I'm correct, about 4 million followers on Instagram.
She had like a swimsuit edition of Sports Illustrated,
yes.
I remember.
I mean, if you look at Alona, I mean, she is ripped. She's a beast,
crazy.
right?
Yeah.
And it was just cool talking to some of the young girls who were at a TC Gemini game I was at recently, and they spoke about how important it was to have folks like Alona Marr and then also the TC Gemini, and just seeing folks with their body type being celebrated and being just beasts and super physical and powerful.
Unapologetic, right?
Unapologetic. And it's a strength.
What about some of the TC Gemini players? Could you tell us?
For sure. So TC Gemini, it's really interesting. It's an incredibly diverse roster, as with a lot of other rosters across the league. They've got everything from, you have Olympic caliber talent like Katherine Johnson to folks who hadn't picked up a rugby ball before they joined the team.
Whoa.
I was talking to a team member, Allie, who told me that, yes, sometimes we find our teammates we just go to the gym and we're like, oh, that girl looks strong.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, you have folks like Katherine Johnson, who actually is a firefighter in the area by day, but also has been to the Olympics before. I think another thing that was really important that a lot of folks highlighted about and it's true for TC Gemini, but I think a lot of folks just in the rugby space in general, but genuinely one of the most inclusive and LGBTQ friendly environments that most of the athletes I'd spoken to had ever experienced in sports. All the players for TC Gemini, they have their pronouns probably like displayed next to the name on the roster, which at least from my experience is not all too common. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And there's just overall a really big emphasis on community, mentorship, joy, even during tough matchups. They might be down, but you couldn't tell by just the folks on the sidelines. They're having such a great time just being out there.
Well, I think their last game was their Pride game, right? It was just the other week. Yeah.
How did they do?
So if you look at the actual record, I would say it is more of a growth year. The TC Gemini did finish bottom half of the league. That being said, though, there's only 6 teams, right? So that's important, I think, to mention. The TC Gemini were second to last, but spirits were high. A lot of players, again, like Ali Gilberg.
Yeah.
Folks like her were really just thrilled to be part of something and making history. Just the fact that they were even out there playing for a professional league was almost still kind of mind-boggling, even as I was catching them in their last regular season game. We're just kind of at awe about it.
I know you like going to rugby matches. If you were going to convince somebody like, hey, you like football, here's why you should go to a rugby game, like what would be like kind of what you would say?
That's an interesting question. I would say I think that it's a really interesting mix of physicality, but in a very deft way that I think is really refreshing as somebody that watches a lot of football. You know, you can feel it in your chest when a big tackle happens, but it's also quite beautiful in terms of the passing, the movement, the grits, the
grace. There's some kind of gracefulness
for
to
sure.
it. Yeah. So the Legacy Cup Championship is this Sunday at TCO Stadium. Who is vying for the championship, and what can we expect at the match?
It's down to the Denver Onyx and the New York Exiles, 2 very dominant teams this season. And so that's right, they're going to be playing at TCO Stadium where the Vikings train. It's a really fun environment. That's actually where the TC Gemini were playing, where I saw them, and definitely would recommend it. Again, when I went on the Pride night, it was terrible weather-wise, just super gloomy, rainy, and I was really worried that people were not going to show up. But despite the weather, the atmosphere actually made up for it. So I can only imagine that when the weather is
like
nice
diehards,
and
like people are just out there
the
with
Pride
like,
vibes are out, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, it was...
Do they wave stuff? Like,
They
what
were...
do they...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, this is like what I would imagine to be a sort of toned down crowd. So tickets start at about $15 and going up to around $50 range. So pretty, you know, cost friendly, I would say family friendly environments. You know, you had older folks out there just with their friends, younger folks out there maybe catching their first rugby match, and then you had some kids that were just running around in the grass.
Nice. Well, Shelby, it seems like us rugby fans are the winners here, and I'm hoping to get more acquainted with the team. In just a second, we'll talk about where to go if you're going out this Pride weekend. One thing about Minnesota summers is you got to make the most of it. It's a blessing and a curse. Our digital features producer, Abby Sleva, is here to help you craft your weekend plans. Hi, Abby.
Hi.
So what's on your radar for Friday night, basically the start of the Pride weekend?
Yeah, the Pride Beer Dabbler at the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden is on Friday night. It is like a bunch of breweries. There's like over 70 of them, and a lot of them have like beer Pride specials. So they do like Pride beers.
What would you call a Pride beer?
I don't know, like
a limited edition.
Yeah, like something
Fruity.
that they
She said,
I'm just kidding.
Zoe said
She said it.
not
She said
me.
it, not me.
I like mine deep and robust.
That's really funny. No, so they do different ones. Like, I know in the past I've seen like more like pink beers, more like glittery beers. That's kind of the vibes. But
some sours.
Some sours, yes. But there is food trucks as well. It's like a little expensive, but you
what's a little expensive?
It's like $60 if you're drinking, but you get a little cup and you get unlimited drinks. You just take it to every person.
It is a little cup.
It is a
It's
little cup.
But that's probably, you can take different samples, right? It's like a sample
So
cup.
you can try all of them, and it goes from 6 to 9:30. So you have plenty of time to drink and enjoy.
So what if you don't like beer?
They have seltzer and ciders. If you're into that,
I'm into that.
I am also into that. I'm into all of those beverages.
Well, you can also get married there? I didn't realize that.
Yes.
At the Dabbler?
Yes, they're having vow renewals. I should have led with that. They're doing, like, you can sign up to do a vow renewal. I think they wanted to make it more like
Maybe we
like
should
pride
do
themed.
it. Because, we got married in a brewery.
Yeah, you guys should.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
But I feel like the Beer Dabbler, I mean, they've had it for years, but it keeps getting bigger or more.
So
It's
crazy.
intense. It's really fun. People go really hard. They make like pretzel necklaces and like make like even like when I went in the fall, they had people with like full like loaves of bread on necklaces and like
Wait,
That
but
was-
why?
They needed it for the beer
the
to
beer,
absorb the beer.
like as you're drinking, so you can have a snack.
I was joking, but that is hilarious that I was correct.
No, like that's
Carbs.
like, people do that.
Carbs.
Even though there's like food trucks and stuff, but
Wow.
it's just like you
The
can have it
bread's
on your
free.
person.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely be into that on Friday night. I think it's going to be, fun. And then you can kind of go out after if you want to. And
Well, I was going to say, so, okay, we had the Beer Dabbler, which is strictly, 21 and up. It's Pride weekend. I got the wife and the kid, and I'm trying to, I'm not in my 20s anymore. So, like, what else is something, I guess, I don't know, family friendly?
yeah, definitely the festival, like the Twin Cities Pride Festival in Loring Park is definitely where I would go if I had kids on Pride weekend, just because there's like a lot more kid friendly stuff. There's like drag performances, which are really, I think they're really fun. And there's like lots of food, lots of like fair food, kids like that, like ice cream and stuff, and like free stuff, like
Free.
the stickers,
free.
the sunglasses, the fans, all the merch that you can get for free. And
Single-use plastic.
Yep.
I just feel like that's where I would definitely take like kids and go out for the day. And the sculpture garden has been involved in the past couple of years, which is kind of fun, a little bit more of an open space that you can hang out in. The park can get a little tight with a lot of people.
Yeah. So outside the main festival, what are some other events happening this weekend?
So the Saloon, which is like a prominent gay bar in Minneapolis, they do a block party on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday and Saturday it goes from noon to 3 a.m. And Sunday it goes from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. There's been a Ferris wheel in the past. There is live music. There's DJs. There's drag performances. There is arcade games that you can play. There is drink specials. There is dancing. There is everything.
Everything. How much will it cost to go
So
to some of this
here's
stuff?
my pro tip. Friday and Saturday, if you get there before 3 p.m., you don't have to pay to get in at all.
Are you, to the block party?
Yeah, to the block party.
Okay.
After that is a $44 cover.
Ooh, so get there at 2.
You can get there at like 2:30. Like
We just stand in line, though.
that early, we just walked in last year.
Okay.
I can't speak for this year, but when we were that early, like we just walked, like we just got ID'd and walked in, basically.
Nice.
There wasn't a big line. And then they have like live music, drag, and then like drink specials, which is really fun. Last year I got a drink in a bucket. Like,
It's more about pacing yourself. That's what it's. You have to pace yourself.
Yes.
Normally it's hot or at least humid or
Yes.
something. And you I think the times I've been recently, I only lasted like an hour and a half. And then we were like, we got to go. And then we're like in this Uber, and you don't want to get 6 girls in an Uber. You're not supposed to get 6 girls in an Uber. But I think you have to pace
Clown
yourself.
card.
yeah, no, I've been in a clown car Uber before.
Well, thanks for the itinerary, Abby.
Yeah.
Let's hope the rain stays away for Pride this weekend.
Absolutely.
Before we go, let's do the Minnesota goodbye. Zoe, what's a moment from your week that felt very Minnesotan?
Probably walking to dinner last night in Lynn Lake and sitting on a rooftop and having a beverage.
Having a beverage. Mine was also outside, not on a patio or rooftop. I was gardening, or aka pulling weeds from my vegetable garden. And I don't know about you, sometimes I like hum a little song to myself. I'm pretending like I'm, and all of a sudden I hear like folk music, like just hauntingly like through the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And my neighbor was having like a folk band on her porch. It was just like a porch concert. And I was like, what? This is great. We sat on our deck. Actually, my mom walked Caden, my son, over there and had him listen in the front. And then we just like sat there. Me and my wife sat there with a beer, and it was just like, Minnesota, man. Like, you can just be like a pseudo participant just by being outside or putting yourself out somewhere. And it's wonderful. You don't know what's going to end up happening. So I loved it.
So magical.
It was magical. Well, thanks for hanging with us. We'll be back next Friday. Bye. Worth It is a co-production of the Minnesota Star Tribune and Lemonada Media. It's hosted by me, Nicole Norfleet, and Aaron Brown. The production team includes Melissa Townsend, Chrissy Pease, and Tiffany Bowie, with help from Zoe Jackson and Casey Darnell. This series is mixed by Johnny Vince Evans with technical help from Matt Gilmer. Our theme was composed by Dan Malad. Lemonada's Senior Vice President of Weekly Content and Production is Steve Nelson, and the Star Tribune's Director of Audio and Video Initiatives is Jenny Pinkley. Executive producers are Stephanie Whittles-Wax and Jessica Cordova-Kramer. Help others find our show by leaving us a rating and writing a review. Follow Worth It wherever you get your podcasts or listen ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership. Thanks so much for listening. Catch you next week. Bye.